There were only 12 minutes left before the wedding ceremony, but Emily Sterling had disappeared from the photo area. Through the music and the clinking of crystal glasses, Grace heard a tiny sob coming from beneath a table covered with a long tablecloth. What Emily whispered next could bring the entire wedding to a halt. Grace knelt on the floor and gently lifted the edge of the tablecloth. In the darkness, Emily was curled up with a photograph of Sarah pressed against her chest. Her makeup was smeared across her tear-soaked cheeks, and her hands were trembling so badly that the picture frame kept tapping against one of the table legs. Grace did not pull her out. She sat down a short distance away and spoke softly. "May I come closer to you?" Emily looked toward the door. She waited until the sound of shoes in the hallway had faded, then nodded. She leaned close to Grace and whispered, "Veronica said that after the wedding, they are going to send me away forever. She said Daddy signed the papers because he does not want me anymore." Grace felt her heart tighten. She wanted to tell Emily immediately that Michael would never do such a thing, but she could not replace the truth with reassurance she had not verified. "You did the right thing by telling me," Grace said. "I do not know what those papers are yet, but I will not let you face this alone." Emily pulled a small bundle of folded papers from her pocket. The first page was an admission form for a year-round boarding school. Underneath it was a request to replace the trustee of Emily's trust fund, along with a power of attorney bearing Michael Sterling's signature. Grace recognized the name of the school, but the legal terms sent a chill down her spine. "Where did you find these?" "I heard Veronica talking to Uncle Nathan in the study. Afterward, they left these copies beside the printer." The radio on Grace's hip suddenly crackled to life. Veronica's voice came through the static, sharp and cold. "Bring Emily to the photo area immediately." Grace replied that Emily was not feeling well and needed a few quiet minutes. Less than a minute later, Veronica appeared. Standing in the doorway, she still wore the gentle smile of a perfect bride. "Emily, everyone is waiting for you." Veronica bent down and reached under the table to pull the girl out. Emily immediately moved farther back. The smile vanished from Veronica's face when she realized there were no wedding guests in the room. "You are encouraging a childish fit of jealousy, Grace. Leave." Grace remained seated between Veronica and the girl. "Is Emily being sent to a boarding school?" "That is a decision for her parents. It is none of a maid's business." "Then delay the ceremony for a few minutes so Michael can speak to his daughter himself." That was the moment when Veronica could have stopped. Instead, she stepped closer to Grace and lowered her voice. "If you keep interfering, tomorrow morning you will lose your job, your room, and any chance of getting a reference from this family." Anne walked in at that exact moment. Veronica immediately changed her tone and explained that Emily was trying to ruin the wedding because she missed her mother. Anne looked at her granddaughter's red, swollen eyes and at the way she clutched Sarah's photograph. Then she avoided Grace's gaze. With the guests gathering outside the door, she still did not have the courage to confront Veronica. Grace did not take Emily back to the photo area. Instead, she led her through a service hallway and into a small sitting room. She poured her a glass of water, turned off the music coming through the speakers, and placed Sarah's photograph beside her. "You can stay here with me. No one is going to make you tell your story in front of a crowd." Another troubling sign appeared moments later. Linda found Grace in the hallway, her face pale. "Emily's 2 suitcases have been loaded into a private car," she said. "Veronica also told me to prepare your termination papers for tomorrow morning." Grace looked through the glass door. Emily was sitting on a chair with her knees pulled to her chest, looking painfully small in a room decorated for a joyful celebration. The threats were no longer just words meant to frighten a child. Someone had already packed Emily's belongings and was preparing to remove the only person she trusted. Grace could not reach Michael directly. He was in the groom's area with his business partners, and security had been ordered not to let any household employees inside. She called David Chen. "I have documents concerning Emily's trust. You need to come to the study immediately." David arrived a few minutes later. He closed the study door, put on his glasses, and placed each page beneath the desk lamp. The signature looked almost like Michael's, but the angle was unusual. The way the letter S had been written also looked different from every trust document David had ever witnessed him sign. David called the Trust Administration office and asked them to check the confirmation history. The room was so quiet that Grace could hear the clock ticking. At last, David ended the call and lowered his phone. There was no direct confirmation from Michael. That is a required step before a trustee can be replaced. These documents are not legally valid. Grace had just started to breathe again when he continued. But whoever created them knew enough about the trust to make a serious attempt at fraud. This signature was most likely forged. Do not allow any of these documents to leave this room. The door slowly opened. Emily stepped inside, holding the smartwatch her mother had left behind. A small recording symbol was still glowing on the screen. The girl placed the watch in front of David. "I think Veronica said everything on here." David checked the timestamp, turned on the speaker, and touched the playback symbol. After a brief rustling sound, Veronica's voice came through clearly. "After the honeymoon, the girl will not be here to cause trouble anymore." Veronica's voice made Emily flinch. David stopped the recording, backed it up to his computer, and preserved the original date, time, location data, and audio before opening a copy to continue listening. Veronica said Michael was too busy to read the documents carefully. She planned to send Emily away after creating tension between father and daughter, making him believe the girl had chosen boarding school voluntarily. "Grace needs to disappear immediately after the wedding," Veronica said. "The girl only dares to stand up to me because of her." Nathan asked whether Michael would give her authority over the trust. Veronica replied that once she became his wife, she would present every proposal as a decision made for Emily's future. The education and management contracts would help their company pay off its debts. Nathan lowered his voice. "The forged signature might fool Michael, but David will notice." "After the wedding, Michael will not want a scandal," Veronica replied. "He will make everything legal to protect his reputation." When the conversation ended, the recording continued. From somewhere in the distance came the sound of Emily's trembling breath, followed by the girl quietly reminding herself, "Find an adult who will listen." David compared the recording time with the hallway security footage. It matched the moment Veronica entered the study while Michael was in Chicago. Even so, he still needed another independent source of confirmation. The door opened. Linda walked in, clutching a stack of papers against her chest. Forced to choose between the job that supported her family and Emily's safety, she refused to back down this time. "This is the email ordering Grace's termination tomorrow morning, and this is the transportation schedule for Emily's 2 suitcases during the honeymoon." Anne looked at the luggage schedule as tears filled her eyes. She admitted that Emily had once asked whether a child who lived at school was allowed to come home for Christmas. Anne had believed Veronica when she claimed it was only a summer program. She returned to the sitting room and lowered herself to her granddaughter's level. "I saw that you were afraid, but I chose the explanation that was easier to believe. I am sorry. Emily did not answer. Anne did not ask for a hug or demand forgiveness. She simply stayed beside her granddaughter so the child would not have to witness the adults confronting one another. Grace and David carried the evidence into the hallway. Veronica was waiting in her wedding dress, still smiling even though the look in her eyes had changed. The ceremony is starting. We can deal with this later. Grace looked directly at her. Tell Michael the truth yourself and postpone the wedding. You still have a chance to stop this from becoming even more serious. Veronica realized that Grace knew everything. She stepped closer and lowered her voice. I will pay you 6 months of salary. Leave the estate today and do not say anything to Michael. I will not sell Emily's safety. Veronica's expression hardened. She threatened to call security, accuse Grace of stealing private documents, and claim that she was keeping Emily away from her legal guardian. David stepped forward. The documents are in my custody as the attorney for the trust. If you call security, make it clear that I am the one who ordered them to be preserved. Veronica stood frozen. She could not take back the evidence without placing herself under immediate suspicion. In the preparation room, Michael was adjusting his cufflinks. His assistant stopped Grace at the door that David used his authority as the trust's attorney to demand an urgent conversation. Grace did not begin with an accusation. Emily is safe, but she believes that you do not want her living with you anymore. Michael released his cufflink. Wedding music drifted through the window, but he did not move toward the ceremony. Tell me everything before this wedding continues. David spread the documents across the table. Michael examined each page and confirmed that he had never signed the boarding school application, never approved a change of trustee, and had no intention of sending Emily away to live at school year-round. When David played the recording, Michael recognized the voices of Veronica and Nathan. The time data showed that the conversation had taken place while he was attending a meeting in Chicago. Michael looked at the forged signature bearing his name, then at his daughter's watch. He understood that Emily had been too afraid to ask him, because his own absence had made the lie believable. Michael immediately went to the sitting room. He did not ask Emily to repeat the story in front of David, Grace, or Anne. He knelt down and kept enough distance to let his daughter decide whether she wanted him closer. Daddy did not sign those papers. Daddy does not want you to leave this house. Emily stared at him for a long time. Then why does Veronica know the password to your study? Why do you always believe her instead of me? Michael did not hide behind work or the pain of losing Sarah. Daddy gave her too much power to make decisions. Daddy did not understand how frightened you were. That was Daddy's fault. Emily did not run into her father's arms. She only asked one question. Is Grace going to be fired? No one will be punished for protecting you. David suggested announcing that the wedding had been postponed because of a family matter, then handling everything privately. Michael tightened his hand around the watch. Postponing it is not enough. I heard what she said with my own ears. Outside in the lakeside garden, the wedding music began. Veronica walked down the aisle between hundreds of guests, believing that Grace had been stopped. Michael stood at the altar with Emily's watch in his hand. The officiant looked at him and asked, Michael Sterling, do you take Veronica Blake to be your wife? Michael looked at Veronica, then at the hundreds of guests. No. Please stop the ceremony. Michael raised his hand. The music stopped in the middle of a long note, leaving the lakeside ceremony in complete silence. A serious issue involving my daughter's safety has just come to light. This wedding cannot continue. I will not reveal Emily's private account or the evidence connected to her. Please respect her privacy. Veronica held on to a stiff smile. Michael is reacting to a panic attack encouraged by a household employee. Grace did not destroy this marriage, Michael replied. The truth did. The wedding was canceled in front of board members, business partners, and hundreds of guests. Veronica lost her future position as the chief executive officer's wife, but Emily was not used as a weapon to humiliate her. Michael, Veronica, David, Grace, Linda, and Anne entered a private sitting room. Security remained outside, and no force was used. David placed the boarding school application, the request to replace the trustee, the power of attorney bearing the forged signature, and a copy of the folder Nathan had prepared on the table. Michael examined every page. None of these signatures are mine. Veronica claimed that she had only been preparing options for the family. Michael could make them official by signing everything after the wedding. Then why did you tell Emily that her father did not want her anymore? She would never have agreed to boarding school without a strong enough reason. That was Veronica's final opportunity to accept responsibility. Instead, she said Emily was only a grieving child who was destroying her father's chance at happiness. David did not argue. He played only the necessary part of the recording and stopped before the sound of Emily crying. Linda handed over the email ordering Grace's termination, the instructions to move Emily's luggage, and the list of employees who were forbidden from allowing Grace to speak with Emily alone. Hallway security footage confirmed that Veronica had entered the study while Michael was away. Printer records showed that the documents had been created and printed from her computer. The request to change the trust has not taken effect, David said. None of Emily's assets have been taken, but there is evidence of forgery and attempted fraud. Veronica turned to Michael. If this becomes public, our reputation will be destroyed. Michael understood that this was exactly what she had always counted on. She believed he would sacrifice the truth to protect his public image. He ended the engagement, revoked Veronica and Nathan's access to the estate, and blocked them from the family's accounts, offices, and security systems. David was instructed to notify the boarding school and the trust administrators, and to preserve every device and record for the investigation. Grace and Linda were protected from retaliation. Every plan involving Emily's education or living arrangements was immediately suspended. Veronica left the estate under supervision. Michael did not allow the press to film her being escorted away. Justice did not need to become public revenge. When the house finally became quiet, Michael returned to Emily's room. Daddy is sorry that he made you feel like you could not come to him. Emily held the watch against her chest and asked softly, Did you cancel the wedding just because I did not like Veronica? Daddy stopped the wedding because she lied, forged documents, and frightened you. You are not responsible for the decisions adults make. Grace reminded Michael that an apology could not erase Emily's fear overnight. He agreed and did not ask his daughter for a hug or demand forgiveness. Michael appointed a chief operating officer to reduce his workload, set aside phone-free time with Emily, and began family therapy with her. Anne apologized for calling her granddaughter's fear jealousy, and learned how to listen without dismissing her feelings. Grace began working a flexible schedule so she could complete a certification program in trauma-informed child support. She did not become a replacement mother or Michael's new romantic partner. Linda received workplace protection, and the estate created an independent reporting system for employees. David appointed an independent trust protector. Any major decision involving Emily's education or assets now required direct confirmation from Michael, David, and a child advocate responsible for representing Emily's best interests. Veronica and Nathan were investigated for signature forgery and conspiracy to commit fraud. Because no money had actually been taken, they accepted responsibility, reimbursed the legal expenses, received probation, and were ordered to have no contact with Emily. 6 months later, Emily no longer hid beneath tables, although Sarah's photograph and the watch still rested in a box beside her bed. She continued therapy and slowly became more comfortable speaking openly whenever she disagreed with her father. Michael did not try to erase Sarah from their new life. Father and daughter finally completed the memorial garden they had postponed for years. Grace finished the first stage of her certification program and spent 1 day each week volunteering at a support center for children dealing with grief and loss. One afternoon, Michael was preparing to leave for a meeting when Emily appeared in the doorway of his study. "Daddy, I have a school performance today. I want you to be there." Michael looked at the meeting schedule on his phone. 6 months earlier, he might have promised to buy her a gift to make up for missing it. This time, he turned off the phone and placed it inside his desk drawer. "Daddy hears you." Emily's whisper had stopped a wedding. But that house did not truly become a family again until her father learned to listen to the ordinary things she said every day. Love is not only about protecting the people closest to you after the danger becomes obvious. It is also about creating enough safety for them to speak up before the danger begins. What would you have done in Grace's place with only a few minutes left before the wedding? Would you have trusted Emily, or waited until you had enough evidence to act? Share your thoughts and continue following Stewart's stories of love, hope, and justice.